I'm now delighted to introduce onto the stage Jeff Johnson, the president of Boeing Middle East for Boeing International, to offer us our keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Jeff Johnson.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I think that video, wonderful video, really showed why we're here. A story of progress and great vision from the leaders. And so I'd like to frame today with a little bit of the market and give us the growth that we're looking at, and then we can talk for the next 2 days about how that growth and how we work together to improve safety around the world. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World Aviation Safety Summit 2015. Again, I'd like to talk a little bit about the market and then aviation safety. I'd like to have a special thanks to the Dubai Civil Aviation Authority for hosting today. The Middle East isn't only home to some of the world's leading airlines, such as Emirates Airlines and Etihad, but it also has one of the busiest skies in the globe. As it is fast-growing airlines that nurture global ambitions and invest in their expanding fleets, the sky above the region has never been as crowded as it is today. In fact, the region continues to outpace the world growth, and there are over 500 Boeing airplanes flying around the Middle East today, which is, I consider that a beautiful thing. As air travel continues to grow, airlines are responding by adding more frequencies and by adding more nonstop flights to their efforts. The Middle East is a unique geographical location at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe, and provides us with an advantage in competing for air traffic connecting these regions and North America. But more important, local industry growth can be attributed to careful planning by the Arab airport authorities, who have encouraged this growth by developing airport capacity and a growing number of passengers, as we talked about Dubai International Airport going over 70 million passengers last year. Now, what I'd like to talk about is our current market outlook. It's a 20-year forecast for demand of airplane deliveries over the next 20 years. And that demand forecast is based on world GDP and a number of other elements that we figure into the forecast. So when you look at the worldwide market, we see that the world GDP is expected to grow over the next 20 years at about 3.2%. The number of airline passengers worldwide at about 4.2%. And then revenue passenger kilometers, RPKs, are a way to measure the overall traffic in and out of markets. We expect to see about a 5% growth in passenger traffic and about a 4.7% growth in cargo traffic. So when you look at this market, the airlines continue to grow and have met this growth through an increased number of frequencies and nonstops worldwide. Airlines can accommodate this growth two ways, through either capacity and size or through frequencies by adding more nonstop markets. We believe passengers prefer the nonstops and frequency choices, and that's really what we've seen when you look at the Gulf 3. Industry data demonstrates that the growth in air traffic has met or increased in the number of nonstop market pairs and the frequency growth, as I mentioned. In fact, average airplane size, if you look at the blue line on the bottom of the chart, has actually decreased since the 1990s. So again, that's taken the total passenger traffic and divided by the number of airplanes. Understandably, air travel dipped, as you can see, in 2001 and 2002, but now we continue to see growth in the long term. And we continue to emphasize that the increase in nonstops and greater frequencies also is a challenge that industry and safety needs to meet. When you look at a number of the forecast drivers and considerations, it shows that aviation is really a dynamic industry that continuously adapts to the various market forces. Key market forces that impact the airline industry are fuel price, economic growth and development, environmental regulations, infrastructure, market liberalization, airplane capabilities, and other modes of transport such as rail, bus, business models, and emerging markets. Each of these forces can be both positive and negative, as we've seen recently with the oil prices dipping. That's been a very positive addition to profits for the airlines. On the negative side, we've also in the past have seen, profits drained as oil was up at $100 a barrel. These market forces are incorporated into a number of long-term forecasts that Boeing produces annually, as I mentioned, the current market outlook, and I'll talk a little bit further about that. So when you look at our current market outlook globally over the next 20 years, we predict that over 38,000 new airplanes will be delivered around the world, with a total value around $5.5 trillion in airplane deliveries. Over the next 20 years, we project that over 25,000 single-aisle airplanes will be delivered, representing the biggest 70% of the commercial deliveries and about 45% of the total value of the market. The twin-aisle airplane segment, the highest valued segment of the market, is valued at over $2.1 trillion over the next 20 years, so just absolutely huge market. Over the next 20 years, we also see a demand for just under 1,000 new freighter aircraft valued at about $250 million. So that gives you a view of where the globe is going, and then I'll come back in a minute and talk a little bit about the Middle East market. Also interesting enough is the difference in the growth rates, replacement versus retained aircraft. Old, less efficient airplanes will be replaced with more efficient, newer generation aircraft. The in-service commercial fleets will grow worldwide at about 3.5% per year to double to 21,000 airplanes today to over 42,000 airplanes in service in 2033. Over the next 20 years, the airlines will need 36,000 new airplanes, about 42% of the growth, and they'll need 58% of the new aircraft deliveries will be for emerging markets. The largest growth markets are China, India, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and of course the Middle East. There remains significant untapped potential for liberalization within the Middle East. If you look at the Saudi market opening up, potentially Iraq and Iran, those are not figured into these growth numbers. And then when you look at that growth, what that also will cause, and one of the things we'll talk about the next couple of days, is the tripling of airport congestion worldwide. The Middle East has huge improvement programs in their airport expansion, but we still will see congested airports worldwide grow from 10% to almost 50% of the airports. So that will be a challenge that industry and government will have to take on. So when you look at the Middle East market in particular and take those 38,000 airplanes and break it down to the Middle East, we forecast a demand for 29,000 new airplanes at a value of over $640 billion. With Middle East air traffic projected to grow above the 5% worldwide rate at 6.4% over the next 20 years, it will be critically important to address the challenges associated with that growth, such as airspace management, infrastructures, personal skills, financing, and most importantly, safety. When you look at the current market outlook for people in the Middle East, we project that the Middle East will need more than 52,000 new pilots and over 65,000 new technicians. So again, a huge opportunity and a huge challenge for us to take that on together. When you look at the Middle East market and break its growth down to the various regions, you can see that Europe is the largest market in and out of the Middle East today, and that will grow at a 5.4%. But when you look at Asia and you look at China, big growth opportunities into those markets. And then, as I mentioned, there remains untapped potential for liberalization within the Middle East. An example is in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who's taking steps toward opening its underserved domestic market. 2 new airlines are expected to begin operation, and we'll look forward to those this year. So it's very exciting, and again, would increase the growth in this wonderful market. So then when you break down the Middle East into growth and replacement, I think this really tells the story of why we have seen the growth and we'll have to harness the challenges that we have in this market. When you look at growth in the Middle East, we project 74%, over 2,100 new airplanes. When you look at growth globally, that was 58%. So almost 20% more growth in this market compared to the world. When you look at replacement, again, the Middle East Gulf carriers have very new fleets. Replacement is around 26%, around 700 airplanes, as compared to the worldwide 42%. So again, very low replacement, very high growth in this market. And again, that's to be expected as we're at the crossroads of the new air Silk Route, Asia, Africa, and Europe, all hubbing through the Middle East. So it's a very exciting time, and we have to address those challenges with that growth. And again, if you look at how the Middle East has historically outpaced international travel, I think this chart really shows, that it runs anywhere from 5 to 10% passenger growth higher than the world. Booming demand in the neighboring regions plus local demand development work together in the Middle East to really drive a wonderful market. Infrastructure investments also have tended to really grow with this market. New runways and terminals, focusing on the region's main hubs. New airports opened in Jebel Ali, Doha. Runway were refurbished here at Dubai International. Airport expansion is also underway at King Abdulaziz International in Jeddah and King Khalid International in Riyadh. But challenges remain. Large sections of airspace remained under military control, reducing airspace availability for commercial traffic. And the region's air traffic control systems are not centralized, leaving operators to contend with a patchwork of rules, agencies, and processes. Regulation authorities are also working to address these needs, and recent discussions of ATC coordination between the Gulf Cooperation Council are really a good indication as the regulatory authorities work to harness this growth also. So let's talk a little bit. So that gives you a good framework of this wonderful market that we're all in. A huge growth market, a great place to live if you're in aviation and aerospace. But let's talk for a minute about why we're here today, to really address the safety around this great growth. This chart above shows hull loss accident rates by region of the world. And if you can see, let me build it out here. And if you can see up there in the right-hand corner, we show 3 years, and then the color code is associated with the numbers down on the chart. So 2003, 2008, and 2013, you can see significant improvement in safety hull loss rates around the market. The Middle East has done very well to improve, still has some room for improvement. Africa is an area that we're very focused at, helping the airlines and authorities there improve. The chart is based on data from the Boeing Commercial Airplane Annual Statistical Summary of Commercial Jet Airplane Accidents. Lincoln Bennett from the Aviation Safety Data Capability Group typically provides this data. From 2003, we see significant improvements worldwide in the rate of hull loss accidents, as shown on the chart. This is a result of increased awareness and cooperation efforts in regions and in the world. Efforts to improve safety have most successful when industry and government have worked together, and I think this region's a great example of that. It is an imperative that we collectively continue to strive to prevent accidents and to improve safety by more proactive and predictive approaches. It is also imperative that the aviation ecosystem, which includes airlines, airspace, airports, and aircrafts themselves, work together to secure safe and efficient global air transportation system. There are a number of steps we can take to get there. First off, we need to know greater accuracy of where aircraft are located and ensure that their future path is known and flown very accurately in order to get the planes closer to each other in all phases of operation without a decrease in safety. GPS brings tremendous accuracy to this operation, and we'll continue to look for other technologies to harness. We need to ensure that aircraft are used as efficiently as possible so that each aircraft flies the shortest amount of time as possible. Manufacturers must continue to modernize aircraft, and airlines must continue to modernize their fleets. We need also to continue to introduce new technologies in the system that bring higher levels of functionality and benefits to the operations. Technologies that need to be incorporated include RNAV and RNP, satellite-based system navigations, GPS-based surveillance instead of radar to greater accuracy in aircraft location, and digital-based data systems which enable better situational awareness, crew instructions, and collaborative decision-making. We need to ensure a safe and efficient air transport system that can accommodate the market growth that I talked about. A big part of how the capacity and efficiency would be achieved is through the interconnection and collaboration of all stakeholders. I think you'll hear that over the next couple of days. We talked about it at the ATM Summit in January. It's really about working better together between regulators, airports, airlines, and industry. The aviation transportation system has many stakeholders, but in public and private form. These entities use a common item, the Earth and its atmosphere. The aviation transport system has many parts that must work together collaboratively to bring about efficiencies to the system because they all use the same resource. To bring efficiencies to the system, we must bring all stakeholders together in one network with all the necessary data to support collaborative decision-making together. We must come to understand how an efficient air transport system will enable the aviation world to function and to grow. So with that, I really hope that framed the market growth for you, some of the challenges, and I think I'm very excited about being part of this aviation aerospace market. Again, I'd like to thank the Dubai Civil Aviation Authority for hosting us in this great venue. Alan, thank you for emceeing today. I'll be available later for questions, and thank you very much.